Welcome back to Circuit Paul Ricard in the south of France for the second race of the weekend for EUROCUP-3 for 2025 here at this venue. And for the second time this season, we are going sprint racing here at this. This will be a shorter format of 20 minutes and less points on offer, but still not as less important as any other races, of course, because every point can certainly count towards the end of the season. Scott Woodward here once again to guide you through all the action. Once again down on the grid, catching all the atmosphere and soaking up the sun rays, as once again, as he did in Portugal and here in France, is Alex Garcia as well. And, well, after the first race, Alex, it's all changed at the top of the points, thanks to the victory for Mattia Colnaghi. He now, on calculations I've seen, leads the points by 3 from Ernesto Rivera, and Kasper Stucker's down to third. So it's crazy how one race could just change the complexity of a championship completely after Colnaghi became our first repeat winner of 2025.
Hi again, Scott. And who wants to go to the beach to sunbathe when you can be at the racetrack sunbathing? I think that's certainly a much better option. As much as I like to go to the beach, here we have the sun rays, but we also have a lot of racing action. Yes, things can change very quickly. They have changed very quickly, but that's the norm when you have a championship that is so tightly packed in terms of points as the EUROCUP-3 2025. We had very, very small differences in terms of points between the drivers, and that means that any result where you lag behind a little bit too much has changes. We've seen that in the first race of the day, and I think there is a possibility that we might see that in this sprint race, especially considering that we have, of course, a reverse grid order, and so we have some drivers starting from a little bit further behind, some starting a little bit further in the front. Remember, we had Mattia Colnaghi saying, let's see where I can get. I will not make promises. I can make one promise. He's going to try as hard as he can.
I think you can say you bet that's going to be the case, considering we've got the top 6 basically from those positions being reversed for this race. So you've got Mattia Colnaghi, who won race 1 back in 11th on the grid alongside Ernesto Rivera. And as a result of that, on the front row, it's going to be Garrett Berry and Francisco Macedo who will line up on the front row together. Now, this course being a partially reverse grid, it means that we do have the potential that some of these faster drivers are going to start picking their way through from the front, from the back. So how much overtaking action are you expecting here, potentially, Alex, considering we've got some of the faster guys deep in the pack towards the midfield? Are we going to get quite an overtaking fest in these first few laps if it stays clean?
Normally I would have said yes, because we know that Paul Ricard has a good combination of long straights and slower corners, but we have struggled to see overtaking this weekend so far. So I'm thinking that perhaps the higher temperature is making things a little bit difficult for drivers who are probably struggling to follow other cars with dirty air and high temperatures on the tires. So I'm not going to say that we are going to see a lot of overtaking. Some of it, yes, we should. After all, when you have faster drivers starting from further behind, that is the expectation. But maybe not as much as in other racetracks. We know that the cold was a bit more comfortable for drivers to follow the rivals. Maybe here it will be a bit trickier, but that makes it exciting as well, because we will have potentially slower drivers who will have a chance to defend themselves properly. So that's, I think, the story that we're looking at today.
Well, we'll see how it unfolds. Once again, muchas gracias. Que te vaya bien once again, Alex, and hopefully we'll talk to you if we need you in the pit lane and indeed post-race, whoever our winner is for race number 2. So as you can see, the cars are off on their formation lap, weaving to get as much, ironically, heat into the tyres, considering it is still 27 degrees and fairly humid out there. Let's look at the grid then. It's, again, it's basically the top 12, but it's been, I think, switched around and reversed. So it's Garrett Berry who starts on pole position for Santalot Racing. He'll be alongside Francisco Macedo and car number 2 for Griffincorp. James Agotzo, who benefited from the reverse grid race at the Red Bull Ring to take a victory in the Portimao, forgive me, to take the sprint race victory, and that was the 5th different winner of the season, and that's the only victory so far for Polo Motorsport in the championship. He will start in 3rd. He's alongside Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. for MP Motorsport. Then Jules Caranta in the best of the 3 Red Bull machines. He'll start in 5th for Campos alongside his Red Bull and fellow Red Bull driver and Campos racing team at Enzo Tarvanichkul, so an all Red Bull 3rd row. Maciek Gladish and Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. then come next from Valerio Rinichella, who finished in 4th on the podium in 2nd place, then Kasper Stucker alongside him in 3rd. Then it's Mattia Colnaghi and Ernesto Rivera starting on the 6th row of the grid. Row 7 is where we find Andreas Cardenas and Alexander Abkajava, followed by Kai Darianai and Oscar Wirtz, who will really hope for a much better fortune after he was out on the opening lap after it looks like collide potentially with Alexander Abkajava. So what can he do from 22nd on 16th on the grid? Owen Tancabelli then comes next from Lorenzo Castillo, followed by Preston Lambert and Alessandro Famolaro, Luciano Morano and Lenny Ried from Isaac Barashi and Christian Cantu, then Zach Skula, Alceu Feldman, the Brazilian, and the two Hellbergs, Emil and Linus will start right at the back of the grid, the two entrepreneur brothers who will just are the oldest drivers in the field, but simply just racing purely for the fun of it. They just want to go single-seater racing at their own pace and enjoy themselves. So this being a sprint race, it is a shorter race, 20 minutes plus 1 lap, and it also means less points. So essentially, it's quite simply, you get points from first down to 10th, 10 points for a win, 9 for second, 8 for third, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 down to 10th, and you get a point for the fastest lap too as well. So it might be smaller points than the main races, of which we'll see the second race of those full-point scoring races and longer races tomorrow. But every single point counts for the championship, which is getting ever closer. Of course, after that race, 8 points separate Mateo Colnaghi, Ernesto Rivera, and Kasper Stucker. And of course, Colnaghi is now at the head of the championship, but he and Rivera are going to have to pick their way through from the 6th row of the grid. So the Hellbergs line up at the back of the grid. Green flag flies, red lights up, and the sprint race at Paul Ricard for EUROCUP-3 in 2025 is lights out and underway. It's a clean start from pole position on the outside of the front row from Garrett Berry. Mercedes slots in alongside him, and a great start also for James Agozzi. He might get second place on the approach down towards turn 1 for the first time. And it looks as though it's going to be side by side for second as they turn their way out of the first few corners for the first time. And on the sprint down towards the complex. A couple of the cars running wide, but it's the Camposh cars in second place. That might well be, I think, either Jules... It might be... no, who's that in the Camposh car that's come up? It might be... It is a Camposh car that's up there in the lead. I think it might be Santalok or Griffin Core, one of the two. One of the Red Bull cars is run wide. That's either Caranta or Tarvanichkul. Get them on the timing screen in a moment's time as they now turn their way out of the complex and onto the pit straight, back straight. So Garrett Berry leads with Francisco Macedo in second place for Griffin Core. Igozzi still third, Fittipaldi still fourth. There's lots of dueling going on outside the top 10. Fittipaldi is in fourth and Gladish in fifth, then Caranta, Tarvanichkul, Vinicelli, Kalaskedo, Colnaghi, Rivera and Cardenas. So Cardenas has been the loser from that one, losing a couple of places. He's down to 12th behind the top two from the race 1. Which is Colnaghi and Rivera. A couple of cars running deep over the runoff areas. You've got to be careful not to use those runoff areas too much. Of course, one will be track limits, but two, it's super abrasive tarmac to stop the cars from sliding off too much. It's kind of their solution to not using gravel traps. Two side by side between the two Camposh Red Bull drivers, Caranta and Tarvanichkul, turn wheel to wheel, just ahead of Vinicelli, the Italian who was second in race 1. And a lockup, is that damage? Was there contact? I think one of the Red Bull cars has got damage to the front wing. And which one is it going down the order? It is, I think, Caranta, I think. We'll see who goes tumbling down the timing screen in a second. So which one was it? I don't think it's Rivera. And Tarvanichkul has carried on. So I think it's Caranta. Jules Caranta with damage to the front wing. And I think the Red Bull teammates, and it's happened like it did with Rivera and the Caranta at Portimao. Its Red Bull drivers have come together again. Well, I'm not sure how Marco will think much of that, but either way, they carry on at the start of lap number 2, side by side for third place. That's James Agozzi battling away with the Santalok car number 77. That was Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. over the position, and he takes the place. James Agozzi, the sprint race winner at Portimao, will want to get himself on the podium. And we'll also keep an eye on where our top 3 from race 1 are at the moment. So get my timing screen back in front of me. End of lap number 1. Berry leads, Macedo second, Fittipaldi third, Igozzi fourth, Gladish in fifth. Tarvanichkul survived that contact with his teammate Jules Caranta. He's in sixth. Vinicelli is seventh, Carrasquedo is eighth, Colnaghi is ninth, Rivera is 10th. Then it's Cardenas, Dariani, and Oscar Wirtz, who survived the first lap, thankfully. He's in 13th. The one driver that surprised me, though, Kasper Stucker, down in 14th, and that is number 4 car off the road. That is Alessandro Famolaro, who is off the road. And Alex just telling me there's Cardenas, so no accent on the end. Thank you for that, Alex. Whilst we go. I'm glad to be getting corrected. I don't mind the corrections. I'm happy to be corrected on names. So, Berry and Macedo trying to pull away now. It's Fittipaldi and Agozzi. Gladish in 5th position. Tarvanichkul in 6th. And Rivera has got past Cardenas by the look of it. As they come through. And that is Alessandro Famolaro, who has come to a stop that looks like it's around the exit of Virage du Camp and around Saint-Baume. And as a result of that, as you might have anticipated, safety car has been deployed. So we haven't actually had a race today without a safety car. But such is motorsport. And quickly the recovery team's on site. Safety car is on standby on the pit straight, and it will pick up Garrett Berry. And what could be interesting here is that Santalok Racing haven't won a race this season. Garrett Berry's best result to date so far this season has been 4th, and that was at the first race at the Red Bull Ring. He hasn't finished on the podium this season. But back at his experience, he has been in EUROCUP-3 since 2024 and hasn't yet scored a podium. So if Garrett Berry can hold on here in the top 3 positions, there's every chance he could score not only a first podium, but if he can keep it going for the next, 15 minutes plus 1 lap, he can get himself his first EUROCUP-3 victory. And indeed, I think, be the second American driver to take the victory. One thing that confused me looking at the timing screen, I think on the grid, is that it shows Garrett Berry as being, I think, a British driver. But I don't think he is, because the information I've got suggests he's American. And having been born in Atlanta, Georgia, 21 years old. So Garrett Berry then, who, looking at his past results, experience on top of that, 2 years at the French F4 Championship, took 2 wins in 2023, finished 6th in that championship in 2023. Did the full season of EuroCup-3 last year with Podium Motorsport, then switched to Santalok for this season. And he has done 4 races so far, picked up a 4th and a 9th place at Red Bull Ring, retired from race 1 at Portimao, was 7th in the sprint race and 10th in race 2. So every race he's finished, he's managed to do so inside the top 10. You can see in the background, Alessandro Famolaro's DriveX machine is being pushed away. Disappointing for DriveX, not quite the same form that they've had in previous years. And DriveX, best placed car on the field at the moment, Oscar Wirtz in 13th at the moment. There are other teams, including the DXR car satellite teams. Tangabellu is in 17th. Preston Lambert's 18th. And Cantu is in 23rd. So we're getting a replay of the start here. So James Agozzi went really aggressive at the start, trying to get second place from Francisco Macedo. Couldn't make it stick. Now here's the 2 teammates for Red Bull. And it's there, right there on the exit of the curb. But I think, all right, to be fair, now we've seen that extra angle. I might send an apology to the 2 Red Bull drivers. I don't think there was actual contact between them. It looks to me then as if actually Caranta has hit one of the markers on the outside of the circuit, and that seems to have simply torn his front wing off. And it gave an easy pass for Enzo Tarbanichko. They must have looked and thought, where's he gone? And that's the reason why. So I think there are a couple of those kind of markers or bollards on the exit. Even that simply just hit the curb at the wrong angle, and it just tore the front wing clean off the front of the car. So behind the safety car, thankfully, we have seen Famolaro's car pushed behind the barrier. And I don't think... Are we getting safety car back again this time? Safety car lights are still... No, they're out. So safety car... No, they're still on. The illusion of seeing the car side on. So we're going to get 1 more lap on the safety car. And of course, in a race like this, when it's a sprint race, when you've got 10 minutes knocked off the race time, that makes it all the more important that you've really got to make the most of the time you've got available for you. With 10 less minutes, every single move, every single lap, every single sector that you race really has to be spot on in order to make it happen. And they are stacking up pretty quickly. So are we actually going for a restart? No, we're not. I thought for a second they were stacking up. They're all stacking up quite quickly behind Francisco Macedo. So for a second, I thought there was going to be a very late change of plan and the safety car was coming in. But we're going for 1 more lap, not to catch anyone unawares. So the running order then with just under 12 minutes to go, plus 1 lap in this second race of the weekend for EuroCup-3 here at Circuit Paul Ricard in the south of France. It is Garrett Berry, the American from Atlanta, Georgia, who leads the way for Francisco Macedo in second place. Emerson Fittipaldi Jr., I'll get the words right eventually, of MP Motorsport in third, and I think that's just yellow lights at the top. I thought for a second it was red lights, but the circuit is pretty clear, so I don't think we're going red flag. James Agozzi fourth for Podium Motorsport. Then it's Maciek Gladish fifth for MP. Sixth, Enzo Tarbanichkul in the highest place of the Red Bull cars for Camposh in sixth. Then we've got Valerio Rinicella, the Italian, seventh at the moment. Jesse Carrasquedo in eighth. Then our top two, well, Rivera, of course, was fourth on the grid, was fourth in race one. I'll get that right eventually as well. Forgive me. It's been a while since I covered the championship, so forgive me. So, Kasper Stucker back in 14th. The rest of the top 10, Colnaghi 9th and Rivera 10th. Then it's Cardenas, Darianani, Mertz. Kasper Stucker back in 14th really surprises me. He didn't have a very good first couple of laps. Just inside the top 15, but the man who finished third in race one, struggling a bit in this sprint race here this afternoon. Abkajava 15th and Tangavelu, Lambert, Ried, Morano and Sculla, the top 20, followed by Barashi, Castillo, Cantu. Then it's Feldman, the Hellbergs, Linus ahead of Emil. And then we've lost, of course, Jules Carant. Well, Carant's still going, but he's at the back of the field. There he is, right at the back. You can see the Red Bull car join the tail of the field. I think he just raced around to get himself a new front wing. And he's on the lead lap as well, so he hasn't lost a lap from getting a new front wing. And this safety car really is benefiting him. Now, of course, yes, you only score points in the top 10, but I have to say, Jules Caranta, who comes into this race, at the moment showing as being in sixth in the championship, taking a couple of podiums. He's had very up-down results. If he can try and climb his way through, he's got, how much has he got? What? Just about just under 10 minutes to go, plus one lap. If he's able to pick his way through and pick off some of the faster cars around him, there's every chance with this compressed field and the safety car, there's possibly every chance he could get himself up maybe into the top 10 positions and snatch a point or two. But we'll have to wait and see how the race plays out for the remainder. Safety car lights are now indeed off. So once again, we remind you, now the safety car's coming in. It is now down to Garrett Berry to decide when he wants to get the race restarted. He'll bunch the pack up, get them to his pace, and he chooses at what point to get this race back underway. Now, he can do it as early as he wants, within reason as late as he wants. I have seen some restarts literally going onto the pit straight and stacking everyone up at a snail's crawl of a pace before they got back underway. But as you can see, we are getting set to go very shortly. Then Garrett Berry's going to try and hoodwink the rest of the field and get back underway. Wait for the revs to start to rise. Wait for the speed to start to build. Will he catch them unawares in the middle of a corner? Will he try and get a good restart when he's on the middle of the apex of the final turn? Will he try and wait to the pit straight? When does Garrett Berry decide to pull the pin and get this sprint race back underway with less than 9 minutes to go plus change? There he goes, final corner, right on the acceleration point. As the green flag flies, green lights around the circuit, and we are back underway. Garrett Berry got a decent enough restart, but it looks like Mercedes gone with him. And he had to try and weave to get him out of the toe when they run down towards the first corner, as we're back under racing conditions. Challenge on for fourth as Agozzi defends from Gladish down towards turn one, and they go side by side. Agozzi tries to Hazandi's ground. Gladish is off the road. The MP Motorsport car gets back on the road and actually takes the position. I'm certain he's going to have to give that back. Otherwise, he will face a penalty, I'm sure. And will you let him go around the outside? Well, he's defending, going towards the complex towards Raj Ducont. Around the outside looks Tarbanichkul, the Thai driver for Campos Racing. Enzo Tarbanichkul. It's Rinicella, Carrasquedo, Colnaghi, and Rivera. That's the top 10 as they come out of the Raj Ducont and onto the Michelin straight at racing speeds again. Top three have broken away. Berry, Macedo, and Fittipaldi Jr. Now Gladish is into fourth, but I wonder if that pass off the road might be looked at after the race if he doesn't give it back. Side by side, here goes Rinicella to the inside of Tarbanichkul. Agozzi drives it into the middle of the road to defend from the two cars behind. It's wheel-to-wheel still for sixth position, and Tarbanichkul stands his ground, holds the position. Now that puts Rinicella under Jesse Carrasquedo Jr., the Mexican driver for Griffincorp. And now he's going to the inside lines that the leaders come towards Senior. Top three go through, but it's that battle for sixth I'm watching. The three of them go together. And is there a change for Carrasquedo up the inside of Tarbanichkul? The answer is yes, it is. Runs wide over the curb. And the Mexican ahead of the Thai driver. That's MP. That's Griffincorp ahead of MP. Griffincorp ahead of Campos. I correct myself. Oh! And that was behind. That was Carrasquedo, I think. Carrasquedo touching the curb, but he's lost his front wing too. I think that is Carrasquedo who's damaged that, but that car went airborne. So I looked back to the screen and saw Jesse Carrasquedo car doing a wheelie as it hit the curb. Extraordinary. So it looks like the momentary success for Carrasquedo has come to nothing, because on this restart, he is out of the races, or at least he's out of contention and dropping down the order like a stone. So not great for the Mexican driver, who has a win to his name so far this season from race one in Portugal. End of the first flying lap at racing speeds. Berry, Macedo, Fittipaldi, Gladish, Gozzi down to 5th, then Rinicella, Carbonichko, Rivera, Colnaghi, and Cardenas in the top 10. Still Darianani in 11th place. Behind Darianani, who only had a 10th place his best result of the season. That was in the first race at Portimao. He'd have another top 10 if he can. Oscar Wirtz also as well. He's had a top 10. He had 10th place. That was back at the first race at the Red Bull Ring at his home event. He had a retirement in the first race earlier on this morning. Had a retirement in the sprint race at Portimao. Some work to do to get himself up higher than 16th in the standings with just a single point to his name. Top three look pretty comfortable up at the front. Santalok from Griffin Call by Camposh from MP. That's the top three. And I think I saw there, Maciej Gladic and James Agozzi were possibly going into combat, or Agozzi was going defensive somewhere down the Mistral Straight. We have got, how long time-wise? Just under 5.5 minutes plus a lap. So the two Red Bull cars in the background, we've seen this before. Tarbonichkul and Rivera going to battle, because Rivera's got past Colnaghi. That's quite crucial. And it's wheel to wheel again. As we see Agozzi chasing after Gladish, he gets in the tow, looks up towards the Bose, goes to the outside line, but the Polish driver stands his ground and holds the line from the American. Takes the wider approach. He might get a small slingshot off the corner, but Gladish has got the line covered and continues on in best of the rest outside the podium places. And I have to say, what Alex was saying is kind of coming true here. This shorter sprint race with this partially reversed grid is pretty much showing that it does benefit other drivers. Of course, all these cars are all the same. Of course, it's down to the driver's skill and how they're prepared by each of the teams that make the difference. But I have to say, this is pretty impressive stuff from Garrett Berry, from Francisco Macedo, and Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. I'll get that name right eventually. Down towards the turn one. I think that behind Gladish in fourth was feeling a little unsafe in the racing line because he knew that Agozzi would try and get in the tow and try and close in. There goes James. Sprint race winner at Portimao. And if he's got an opportunity to get himself another strong result, he will take it any day of the week. 4 minutes plus a lap. We are on lap 7 of this sprint race here at Paul Ricard. Garrett Berry. Could he potentially take a victory for Santalok, I wonder? Now, getting a replay here. This is what happened to Jesse Carrasquedo. Just clips the curb. Okay, didn't tear off the front wing, but it must have damaged something, or at least really further compromised him. He is possibly out of the race because he hasn't come past the timings line and completed lap 6. So I think whatever that impact did has forced Carrasquedo out of the race, sadly. So Jesse Carrasquedo Jr., the man 5th in the championship, will lose big points, even though it is a sprint race. He's going to lose points to the cars around him. And that's not going to be a great feeling for him when this weekend is over, having lost potential scores that will go towards his tally. Top 3. Line astern, back towards senior. Berry, Macedo, Fittipaldi. USA from Portugal, from Brazil. Santalok from Griffin Court, from MP Motorsport. Now, what I'm going to quickly look at here is Santalok Racing. I need to check whether or not they've actually won a race in EUROCUP-3. There's part of me that suggests maybe they haven't, but I could be wrong. I'll have a quick look. Yes, they have. They have won a race. They have won a race that was back at Portimao last year, thanks to Alexander Abkhajava. So they won a race. And what about 2023? We'll look at the race winners for that before. I keep an eye on the action. No, that was all Camposh and MP Motorsport in 2023. So Santalok Racing, if Garrett Berry can stay here, not only will it be his first win in EuroCup-3, he could also be giving Santalok Racing their second ever win in EuroCup-3, and they would be delighted with that if they could. It's the Santalok team who kind of more rose to fruition and fame more in sports car racing, GTs, but they've transitioned to single-seaters pretty well. And how much of a boost would this be to the French team's confidence if they can get a win here? Griffin Call looking strong as well, of course, with Francisco Macedo. And again, there's probably personal best results across the board here if this all happens and plays out the way it could, because Macedo came into the weekend. He's currently 12th after that 8th place earlier on. He hasn't had a podium yet in EuroCup-3. This is his first season in the championship. Yeah. No podiums in the Winter Series either, so he could get a first podium as well. And Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. as well. Now, he hasn't had a podium in the championship. The best result he's had so far this year is 9th. And for EuroCup-3... Oh, he has had a win, which was back last year. And that was at the final event of the year in Catalonia in race 1. So this would be a great podium finish for the next member of the Fittipaldi Racing dynasty to put themselves on the ladder. We're coming up to start the penultimate lap of the race. We've got just under a minute to go. Looking at position changes, not many has happened really in the top 10 so far. Rivera, in fact, actually has got past Tarvanichkul. So the two Red Bull cars for Campos that were battling over 7th, that's been resolved for the moment at least, because Tarvanichkul has got ahead of Rivera. Matti Kolnagi, who won race 1, only 9th, and Kasper Stuka is still 12th. He's 1.2 seconds behind Cardenas, and Kai Darianani is in the top 10 as well too. On to the penultimate lap. We've got that's 8 laps in the books, on to lap 9. New fastest lap of the race from Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. In fact, actually, both Macedo and Fittipaldi were quicker than Berry on that last lap. But Berry holds the advantage, 0.6 of a second. Is there anything in Macedo to try and close in here and take a victory? If Fittipaldi gets a victory, it's his second career victory. If it's Macedo, it's his first podium and his first win. And the same, I think, for Garrett Berry. I need to just double-check him again with his results. And Garrett, at the moment, is 10th in the points. Yeah, he hasn't had a podium so far this year. 4th was his best at the Red Bull Ring. And did the championship last year and had no podium in that one. As they make their way down the straight. I think if you're watching, we've had a slight camera freeze, I think. So if you're still watching, bear with us if we have a technical problem. But Barry will try and hold on if he can. So Garrett Berry. I've got pictures back, so if we give us a small technical problem there, we are going on to the car. He's definitely pushing hard. To a Mercedes and Fittipaldi. So out of the final couple of corners onto the pit straight to start the last lap of the race. And Garrett Berry could be staring at Santa Locke's second ever victory. And also his first win in his career. Mercedes could be looking at a first podium. Enzo Fittipaldi would love to be back on the rostrum as well. As for the championship leader, Matteo Colnaghi down in 9th. He'll get 2 points for his troubles, but he will be outscored by Nestor Rivera. He'll also outscore Kasper Stuka because he won't get anything if he stays in 12th. But what a result this could be for Santa Locke and for Garrett Berry. He's only got to hold on for the rest of a lap, and that's easier said than done, particularly when you've got Francisco Macedo and Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. breathing down your neck. He's still 4th, Egozzi 5th, Renicella 6th, Tarvanitz has got back ahead of Rivera. So the two Red Bull Campos drivers have switched around again. Tyre driver ahead of the Mexican. Then Colnaghi and Darianani. And Cardenas is up to 11th ahead of Stuka. Into the Nord Chicane for the last time. Gap is still 9/10 of a second. Macedo was a 10th or so faster than Berry on that first sector. Trying to close back in. Some side-by-side action in the background. That was between, I think, a Campos and MP Motorsport. Maybe, possibly, it wasn't Rivera and Colnaghi. It might have been Stuka and Darian. It might be Stuka and Cardenas, I think. They were quite close together to each other. Yes, I think it was, because looking at the last timing screen, there were barely hundredths of a second between them going into that first chicane. But for Garrett Berry, what a result this will be for the young American. The young American who has done an incredible job. He raced all 4 of the season last year. And his best result last year was P9. He took a P4 last time out at the start of the season. Finished in the top 10 every race he's finished. And he's about to send his team and those in Atlanta, Georgia into raptures. Out of the final corner. And for only the second time in this championship's history, Santa Locke Racing go to victory lane. And for the first time in EuroCup-3, it is victory for Garrett Berry in the sprint race. at Paul Ricard. What a result for Garrett Berry, for the young American, and indeed for Santalok. A second championship win in their history in EUROCUP-3. And what a delight that's going to be. Second place for Francisco Macedo. A first ever podium for him in the championship. What a result that is for him, being 12th in the points. And the young 17-year-old from Braga in Portugal. And also on top of that, a third place for Emerson Fittipaldi Jr., 15th in the points. That's by far his best result of the season. And it's his first podium since Catalunya at the end of the season, because he also scored a second place in the second race after he took his win. That's also his first podium. It's his first best result since, well, race one. It hasn't updated the result on the screen there, but doesn't matter. What does matter is that Francisco Macedo is second place. But there is your winner for the first time in EuroCup-3 after all season last year developing with Pilot Motorsport. He made the switch to Santalok. His results have improved since then. I'll tell you what, the French squad down there are going to be an absolute bliss. They're going to be celebrating and hugging a lot because they will certainly feel they've really earned that victory. That's going to be a feel-good story for Santalok. And another team taking a race victory, because if you look at the victories we've had so far, we've had MP Motorsport and Campos and Pilot Motorsport. That's the fourth different team that's taken a victory in EuroCup-3. That just proves that 2025, not only is it competitive driver-wise with 6 different race winners this season from 7 races, but it also means that we've had 4 different teams taking victories too. And imagine that, just on genuine competitiveness, 6 different drivers with victories now. Matti Kolnagi, Maciej Gladic, Jesse Carrasquedo Jr., James Agozzi, Ernesto Rivera, and now Garrett Berry. He's also the second American to win this season. Tell you what, it's the North and Central Americans doing the business, because between James Agozzi, Garrett Berry, Jesse Carrasquedo, and Ernesto Rivera, it's 2 wins for Mexico and 2 wins for the USA now, as well as 2 wins for Italy, courtesy of Maciej Kolnagi, and a win for Poland, courtesy of Maciej Gladic in the second race at Red Bull Ring. What a magnificent result for them. Let's quickly rattle down the full result then. So Garrett Berry wins by 1 second from Francisco Macedo in second place. Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. is third from Maciej Gladic in fourth, and James Agozzi rounding out the top 5. Valerio Renicella in 6th from Enzo Tarvanic called in 7th place. Ernesto Rivera only manages 8th, ahead of Maciej Kolnagi in 9th, the race 1 winner. And Kai Darianani scores a very hard-earned 10th place for KCL MP Motorsport. Kasper Stucker, who was 3rd in race 1, can't get better than 11th. 12th for Andre Cardenas, Abkajaba 13th, then Wirtz, Tangabellu, Lambert, Morano, Castillo, Carranza, who recovered after he losing his front wing, to 19th. Sculler, Barashi, Ried, Cantu, Feldman, Linus Hellberg ahead of Emil, and then Carrasquedo and Famolaro, the retirements. But climbing out of the cockpit, our 6th different winner in 2025 in EuroCup-3, and his first in EuroCup-3, Garrett Berry of the USA from Atlanta, Georgia, and a second victory in the history of the championship since 2023 for Santalok Racing. And that is going to feel good all the way to the next round, going back to Spain. That will certainly be one that's going to be helpful for them. Of course, the next round after that, we go to Monza the next round in a few weeks' time, after a bit of a summer break. And Garrett's going to be delighted with that, and the smile says it all. And it's an excellent job from Garrett. 21 years old from Atlanta, Georgia. Has raced at French F4, so he knows this circuit pretty well, I'm certain. EuroCup-3 last year with Pilot Motorsport, now with Santalok. And he has certainly done himself proud, and his family and his friends and everyone from Atlanta, Georgia who's supporting him proud. Everyone from Santalok will be delighted with that result as well. What a result for him as well. Excellent job for Francisco Macedo. Go back to his results so far this year. He has had a 4th place, and that was in the sprint race, fittingly, at Portimao. There's this mechanic also getting a bit of a photo next to the 2nd place car. And again, shout out to Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. in car 77, just parking up there. A podium for MP Motorsport, really great job from him. But our 6th different winner of the season, and a first victory for Garrett Berry, a second in the season for Santalok in championship history. He's down with Alex down the pit lane. Let's see how he feels.
Garrett Berry, 6th winner of the season. We were talking in Portimao, and you said, I think I have the car to win. It's come, finally.
it's finally come. I gotta say a big thank you to my family, my sponsors, my management for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, I had a good start and just able to keep the guy behind. Super happy, super thrilled.
And how was that whole race of defending against all the guys coming behind? Because that's the difficult part of a reverse grid. Everyone talks about, it's a reverse grid, blah, blah, blah. But defending is not easy.
No, it's not easy around here, but thankfully I had a good safety car restart, pulling 0.7 on him. And I managed to keep him 0.6 to 0.8 the entire stint, so was really not under any pressure, saved my push to pass to the end, and yeah, was able to bring it back home in P1.
And I'm not going to let you forget that we had a bet when you would win. There's no swimming pool in here.
Yeah.
We'll have to find a thing. We'll have to find a thing. Are you going to find a way to cool yourself? Because this is, frankly, quite hot.
Yeah, there's a swimming pool at the hotel, so I may jump in. But yeah, it was really hot, so I'm a bit cooler than Portimao, but still a lot of work.
Good job, Garrett. Enjoy the win and good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
6th race winner in 7 races rather, this 2025 season. It is not 6 consecutive, but it still shows just how tight the pack is here in EUROCUP-3 in this 2025. I have no more words other than what we've talked the winner for today. This is crazy hot, and it's time to get a little bit of a cooling moment for him.
Yeah, definitely go cool off, Alex. You set the end. Gracias, mi amigo, as well on that one. Excellent stuff all round, and as you mentioned, it just shows how competitive it really is. Jay also something else I'll tell you too. Garrett Berry set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap, briefly, and then Matteo Colnaghi took an extra point for his troubles from that race as well. But you're absolutely right. 6 wins from 7 races. We thought the last couple of seasons was competitive for action and for how good these drivers are. Without question, it's almost an understatement. 2025 has taken this field and this competitiveness of the championship to an absolute other level. I mean, I don't even know what awaits us in race number 3 and even the rest of the season. We've still got Monza and everyone else to go in the rest of the year. Just how much more competitive can this championship really get? I'm actually trying to... It almost doesn't even bear thinking about. I can't even work it out.
I think when we look at what's coming next, it's just looking fantastic because, Scott, when we go to Monza next time around, and of course there's still the race tomorrow, but when we go to Monza, that Monza is the type of circuit where if you're smart, maybe you don't need necessarily that fast of a car. You need to have a good tow, stay with the group, and make the most of your opportunities, and that could throw some surprising winners. And then you go to Assen, to Netherlands, which is not a racetrack where we usually see single-seater racing. So it'll be something new for everyone. And when it's new for everyone, there's always a big chance for someone to make a big splash. So we have at least 2 more events where things could get a little bit crazy before the end of the season. So I think until we go back maybe to Spain at the end of the year, I think things can still get a little bit interesting for this championship. So maybe we could try to make a bet maybe after tomorrow, after we see who wins here in Port Ricard. But I think having an 8th or 9th winner in this season, it wouldn't be too far off what we could be seeing.
Well, considering we've got Monza coming up, the Italians will love that. Of course, particularly Matteo Colnaghi and potentially even Valerio Rinicello. We haven't seen him win a race yet, but he's taken a couple of second places. Then we get to Assen. MP Motorsport will want to score big there at their home race, of course, being a Dutch team. That could be certainly one to watch for too. I think that, as you're absolutely right, Monza and Assen could be the crunch points where the championship really takes some interesting turns. By the time we get back to the Spanish leg, we've got SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS coming up as well, of course, on top of that too. Then we have Jerez, then we have Barcelona. This could take so many more twists and turns before we even get to that finale in November. It really could take so many turns that it just adds to that one thing we all love in motorsport, pure unpredictability. I say bring it on.
Absolutely, I say bring it on, and let's continue to enjoy what seems to be a cracking season. I know that we race fans tend to say this because we're always looking for the future, but my God, what we are having ahead of us is definitely something that we're going to enjoy. I think, though, that we're going to have a podium, we're being told, so I think we can enjoy that a little bit more. We can enjoy the celebrations, which is always nice as well.
You go and cool off. You've earned it, mi amigo. Thank you very much to the Gracias, Alex, as well. And we'll get to the podium. So we've got our top 3 onto the podium right now. Thank you once again, Alex. We'll see you for race 3 tomorrow. But our top 3 coming up onto the rostrum. It is 3rd place for Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. 2nd place, Francisco Matseda for Griffin Corr. But a first-time win and a 2nd ever in championship history for Santalot Racing for Garrett Berry, as he will remove his hat. And we hear the national anthem of the race-winning driver from the United States of America. Truth be told, I was anticipating the US national anthem, not the UK. He's been listed as a British driver this weekend, but he was born in Atlanta, Georgia, so the info I have says he's American, and he sounds American, so, but he might well have some status of being a British driver on top of that too. But either way, it's the British national anthem that rings out over Paul Ricard. The trophy for the winning team, Sansalot Racing, and they're delighted with that. Second ever win in EUROCUP-3 history for the French team. Third place and some more silverware to take home for Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. for MP Motorsport, the Dutch team. And the young Brazilian, who has such an incredible racing dynasty behind him, adding more trophies to the cabinet for the family. Second place and a first podium will go to the Portuguese driver from Griffincorp, that being Francisco Macedo. And he'll cherish that as well. His first trophy podium in EuroCup, second place. And now comes the big one. First place trophy for the first time in his career in his second season in EuroCup-3. It will be one that will certainly mean the most. You never forget your first, and neither will Garrett Berry. Race winner in the sprint race at EuroCup-3 in Paul Ricard. Congratulations. They will gather together as usual for the typical team photos. So the top three and the team representative will be there. They'll also have some ones with the top three driver on their own. And then I was going to say we'd have champagne, but I don't think we will, considering some of these drivers are still 16, 17 years old. They were anticipating some of the fizz. The music goes anyway, so there's a bit of confusion there. No, yes, no, and eventually I think they are going to... They might spray something. I'm not sure. Whilst they work out if they're going to spray the fizz or not, we're going to wrap up today's coverage from Paul Ricard. Thank you if you watched both across the EuroCup-3 and the Spanish F4 streams. We've got 3 more races tomorrow. We've got 2 more races for the Spanish F4 Championship and 1 more race for EuroCup-3. It's been a magnificent day's racing to kick off one of our first continental races outside of the Spanish border for EuroCup-3 and Spanish F4, of course, on top of that as well. From myself, Scott Woodwist, from Alex Garcia, and all of us here at Paul Ricard, thanks for watching, and tune in for around about 11 o'clock Central Eastern Time when racing gets underway for day 2 at Paul Ricard, when Spanish F4 gets underway, and the third EuroCup race will be coming up after that, in between the 2 Spanish F4 races. But until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll see more action from Paul Ricard bright and early tomorrow. Bye for now.